Hey, Corona TV viewers, this is Peter Keys from Leonard Skinner. I want to wish you all a happy birthday.
First of all, let's just do the elbow bump because we can't do the handshake right now.
Hello, everybody on Corona TV. This is Macy Gray.
You're smiling, and I saw your beautiful daughter earlier, who I said could come on the show anytime. Welcome, Shiv Singh.
Thanks for having me, Joseph. Great to be with you.
July 9th, 2020. We are month 467 in the global pandemic. We're still stuck at home. And I have a question for you. My question of the day. It's not even my question. We still friends? Are we still friends? Well, one person that I am still friends with is my guest today. And I'm super, super excited to welcome him on the show. But first, you know, before I even allude to him, I have to say that it is National Sugar Cookie Day. It's the only national day. You know, sometimes when I look at the national days, I have 3 or 4 or 5 to choose from. Unfortunately, all I have today is National Sugar Cookie Day. So have a sugar cookie on me. And more importantly, let's talk about, maybe that was the sizzle, but now let me talk to you about substance. I have John Lawson today. He is my guest. He is the CEO of Third Power Outlet. He's a 3-time Amazon #1 best-selling author. He's an entrepreneur. He's an international speaker. He is a fellow streamy as well. Although, is he? I don't know. We'll ask him what he's doing at the moment. And Bob says, looks like another great show lined up. Absolutely. And Mark Masters is here. Here we go is right. Hey, Mark, I just accepted the lunch in August. Apparently, I am your speaker, so I'm coming. I will be attending the lunch that I'm the speaker at. So I'm super excited to be on your wonderful initiative as well. I love what you've done with it. So I have John today. What an amazing week. And for those of you that are new to the show, no, it wasn't that John Durham. It was another John Durham. That was my guest. And then tomorrow I rounded out with thought leader, with marketer, with futurist Martin Lindstrom. Couldn't be happier to have all of just so blessed to have such amazing guests on the show. I'm also blessed to have you. And so again, I want to thank you for all your engagement. I know I've been saying this often, but I can just see how the show is growing slowly. I wanted the show to grow slowly. I wanted it to be a slow burn. You know, I often say the only time you get virality, right, is either a global pandemic or when basically you're a brand who's, taken your one foot out your mouth to insert another one. The only things that blow up in front of you today that create instant views, etc., are typically negative things. I'm someone who believes much more in investment over time, the long game. You know, perfect your art, perfect your craft, and good things will come if you can stick it out, if you have the endurance, if you have the ability, the patience to keep on getting better over time. So a bunch of happy birthdays. Of course, I'm keeping this up. You know, it moved from if you're stuck at home. I wish people would be stuck at home again, but they're not. So anyone who's not feeling the positive vibes on Facebook or LinkedIn, I want to send those vibes to you and hope you're feeling better and hope the show makes you feel better as well. Well, I'll tell you, one group of individuals or maybe companies that are not really feeling better right now are those that are in bricks and mortar, or maybe I should say bricks and mortar. And that's the subject of today's seated soliloquy. And of course, it has a connection to my guest. You know, I had a thought yesterday. Yes, a solitary thought. And that's a good day for me, just one in that little pea brain. I said to myself, is it conceivable that every single apparel or retail brand could go out of business by 2020 or 2021? My answer is yes. And I was shocked by it. You know, when I wrote Built to Suck, the cover depicted the coming corporate apocalypse. And don't say that 3 times fast, especially if you've had a Corona cocktail or 2. And I'm not talking about bleach. To be a little provocative, which I know is a surprise, I included both ex-brands and current brands in the same scene. So you had Kodak, BlackBerry, Toys R Us, Blockbuster, but also brands like GE, GM, McDonald's, P&G, and yes, Sears and JCPenney. Now, since the book was released, both Sears and JCP have been joined by a host of brands, including most recently in the past week, Lord & Taylor and Brooks Brothers on the bankruptcy hill. I actually don't think it's a stretch to envision a new business landscape and reality where every single one of these brands files for bankruptcy protection or worse. Quite frankly, any brand, and that includes any industry that has the majority of their sales revenue coming from a predominantly bricks and mortar environment, is essentially dead brand walking. My warning is simple. If you cannot get your online to offline revenue ratio turned on its head within the next 18 to 24 months, you are done. Stick a fork in you because your goose is cooked. Brooks Brothers data showed only 20% of its sales coming from online in 2019. And I'm advocating a 2/3 to 3/4 share, or 80% if we're flipping the funnel, within 18 to 24 months, and possibly sooner if the chances of survival are to be boosted and not even guaranteed. How confident are you that all of these companies will succeed at this? How confident are you that any of these companies will succeed at this? These are scary times in big business, but you know what's even scarier than scrapping for survival? A grisly and painful death. And that, unfortunately, is what is on the horizon. Well, on that feel-good note, it's now time to bring on my guest. And I know he has something to say about the e-commerce versus the bricks and mortar environment. John Lawson is CEO of Third Power Outlet, an online retail clothing and accessories company that he founded. With millions of dollars in e-commerce merchandise sold and over 500,000 transactions online facilitated, he has achieved the status of Platinum eBay Power Seller, a top-rated Amazon merchant and Small Business Influencer of the Year. John is a 3-time Amazon #1 best-selling author, entrepreneur, and international speaker, the chief marketer at Colderize Media, and an IBM Cognitive College adjunct professor. He's celebrated as one of the top 100 SMB influencers and the top 50 most influential in SMB marketing. He has spoken to over 200,000 people worldwide on e-commerce and social media marketing, and none of that is why he's on my show today. So we're going to have to, I'm going to have to reveal why I invited him on my show today. Welcome to the show, Mr. John Lawson. And you are muted. I'm going to unmute you.
Okay, unmuted.
That is a schoolboy error.
I was just laughing. I was laughing. I didn't want it to get on there, so I was like, let me mute this real fast.
Were you laughing at me or with me?
I'm laughing at you.
Okay.
Because when you said that about, and now let's bring on John after this, lighthearted intro, that was just funny.
Like, this is the feel-good interview of the day. Well, look, behind me is beautiful, emojis with heart-shaped eyes. So
yes.
Now's the time we can relax a little bit. But I mean, it's and remember, none of that intro is why you're on the show. So
right.
would you like to know why you're on the show?
Yes, why?
Well, I mean, you're on the show for many reasons. You're on the show because you're fascinating. You're on the show because you're honest. You're on the show because, I ended up watching you while I was in a different bedroom on a different floor. My wife had COVID, and I was in a separate, I was isolating, etc. And but you're on the show so that I can thank you to your face.
Wow.
For changing my life. And it's obscure. It's obscure. I tell you what happened. I'd started streaming one day, maybe another day, maybe a third day. I was like, should I do this on a regular basis? I was just doing it through Facebook. Then I discovered I was playing around with Zoom and trying to simulcast. And then one night, by myself with a glass of wine, I became a regular viewer of your show. And I just looked at the show, and you were doing your numbers, and you had all these windows, and the windows were going up and the windows were going down, and there was full screen and there was stuff like that. Yeah. And I sent you a text and I said, what software are you using?
Yes.
And I thought you could choose not to tell me, because why would you want to reveal your secrets? And just immediately you said, I'm using StreamYard. And I switched to them the next day, and I actually think it's changed my life. It's changed the show. It's changed the way that I, by myself at home, can put together a show that almost looks, I can fake it till I make it. But it was your generosity and your spirit, and just how we didn't even know each other well at all, and you just said, oh yeah, like, let me help you. So I want to thank you for changing my life.
Cool. God,
how about that?
That's, look, StreamYard, I hope you're listening. If you've got a program for affiliates.
Yeah, exactly. Now we can tell StreamYard what our list of demands are.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
You don't want us on the other side. You want us on the good side. But yeah, I just wanted to thank you, because
awesome.
It was, and it was also, it wasn't just obviously for that. I think if there's a message there, it's sometimes almost an innocuous act of generosity and kindness can actually impact someone's life quite substantially, and that's what happened.
Well, and there's an old saying, not even an old saying, but thing that I grew up with. I guess it is old because I'm old. But I saw Zig Ziglar. I didn't even get to see him. I rented his tape set from the library when I was younger. Right? I wasn't totally a kid. I was probably like 18, 19 years old. And on there, he said something, and it stuck with me for years. If you help enough people get what they want, you'll have everything you want. And it was all about, service to others. And if you put that out into the universe, it'll come back. So I, in turn, said that to you. And now look, I'm on your show. So it came back to me in spades. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, well, it's and also a connection, a relationship formed, out of sometimes what I call asynchronous intimacy, which is we're on Facebook, LinkedIn, we connect with people. Sometimes it's just a name, sometimes it's a comment, and then you have an opportunity to get to know them, and that's a real gift as well. And what we both learned is we're both showing our affinity and our affiliation to sports teams today.
Team support.
And I've got my Spurs shirt on. They're playing at the moment, and I chose to spend my time with you. And don't take that as a compliment, because my team is playing so badly right now that you're doing me another favor by taking my mind. So I want to go a little bit back in time, but before I do, and I have to apologize for when I looked at the screenshot, I was like, wait a second, this is not the best screenshot of him. But this was your show. Every day you were doing a streaming show, and then you stopped.
Yeah.
And I actually went back. It took me about 15 minutes to go through your Facebook feed to find your last show. And isn't it ironic how we were talking about earlier, just before the show began, about this mess that we're in this country? But your last show was April 24th.
Wow.
Where you were just saying, hey, guess what? Georgia's open for business. Let's see how well that works out.
Wow.
So I have two questions. One is, why did you stop the show, your daily show? And two is, how did it work out for Georgia?
Okay, so why did I stop? It got to the point where it was political, and it started really. I mean, now it's totally political, but at that time in early April or late April, it was starting to get more and more political, and I found myself having to. I was no longer. I couldn't be. There was. You were forced to pick a side, basically, right? It was no longer could I just make commentary and not be either on this team or that team, because really there is no that team. There's only this team, right? Everybody needs to be team COVID. There is no other team. Mm-hmm. Even though you think you're on another team, you still get COVID. It doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. And so I kind of stepped back after, Georgia opened up, and I was just like, okay, I think my work is done, because I initially started, if you went all the way back to find out when I started the last week of January, and it wasn't called that show at the time, but I started the last week of January. And my mission at the time was really just making Americans aware of this virus that was spreading around China at the time, and as it started moving, I remember I started reading, Italy, and even before Italy, it was Iran. And once I started seeing those numbers grow and that thing starting to spread, I'm like, dude, this is going to come to America. And I was really just trying to be the guy sounding the warning. And once it, came very prevalent and we were here, I was like, well, I don't think I need to sound the warning anymore. And that's kind of why I stopped at the time.
And then you spoke about, I love what you said about choosing. There's only one side, and that's team COVID, and obviously the politicization, the weaponization, all those words of everything that are right now about helping our fellow brother and sister to survive and thrive, whether it's physically, mentally, economically, spiritually. The fact that it got so divisive, and that's why I had my background, which is one of your posts. This was on June 4th, and I loved it because you just said we're still friends, and I was thankful that we were still friends, because I was still seeing it, and I said something like thankfully, or I hope I'm on the right side. I hope I'm on your side. But it was, something interesting came out of this, which is I'm at 5,000 friends on Facebook at the moment,
right?
Which is the max. And every day I check, and a good day for me is when I see I have 4,999 friends. Someone has unfriended me, not because I'm trying for them to do that, but it gives me solace that people are saying, this message, you don't resonate with me anymore. And I'm like, you know what? Don't let the door hit you on your way out, because I am on the same team. I'm on team COVID. I'm on team USA. I'm on the team that says we're all in this together.
Right.
And that means I can let in somebody else that maybe wants to be at least open-minded about it. So
yeah,
that really resonated with me.
I had to ask, and I was really asking, honestly, the post really blew up. A lot of people, like you said, for yourself, it resonated with them. And it was like the comments I got back were interesting, but I was really asking, because there are people that disagreed with me, and we would go back and forth. But that was not enough for me to feel like we're not friends anymore, or at least Facebook friends, So I was really asking those people that were taking the other stance, hey, are we still friends? Did this, erase the years of goodwill that we might have had? And most of them were like, no, I see you on that thing, and you do your thing, and I'm doing mine. And that was cool too. For a moment, it was cool.
Yeah. I've had this, I don't, and David Libby just said, the measure of intelligence is the ability to change, Albert Einstein. One thing that's been interesting to me is realizing we cannot change somebody else's worldview. And what we often end up doing is just reinforcing our own one. So we end up surrounding ourselves and hanging out with and talking to on our various feeds people that share our views.
Pretty much.
And the diversity of opinion, the ability intellectually for two sides to come together and attempt to find middle ground is few and far between. And I'm curious, have any of your worldviews changed during this time of COVID, where you assumed one thing or you believed one thing, and actually you're kind of changing your opinion or have been influenced or have evolved that thinking?
Yeah, somewhat, but not probably like you would think. My view changed on a higher trajectory. So what I thought would happen has happened times 10. So I think my faith in the intelligence of the individual has been waned a lot. And I've identified that there are a lot of sheep out there that don't think for themselves. And what I mean by that is I 100% agree with fake news, okay? I believe there's plenty of fake news out there. Most of the news is sensationalized. You turn on either channel, Fox, let's say these are the two extremes, right? You got Fox, you got CNN, okay? If you turn on either one of them, what you're going to see is what we're doing right now. Neither one of us are reporters. We're just giving our opinion on camera, right? That should not be what I see on CNN and Fox. What I see on those channels should be actual hard-pressed news, not opinions. When I turn on Facebook, okay, opinions, no problem. YouTube, opinions, I get it. But the fact is that we are in a society today where news is not news. It's people's opinion. And headlines are, breaking news. How do you have breaking news every 15 minutes? It's just the world we're in, fake news is real. The problem I have is that if we all know this, the fact that you have not done your own study, your own research, when we have a thing called Google now, right? Google, the massive libraries that would take up whole buildings in ancient time, is at your fingertips, and that you will not do your own research to understand where we are, listening to this expert, and that expert, and then formulating your own opinion is absolutely ridiculous to me. I don't even understand how people can be led by a quote side. You have to make up your own side, especially in this thing, because it affects every person in your family, including you. And it's just been disappointing that people are just that much of sheep, that they get their information from one speech of one man, and all of a sudden that becomes truth to them. Really? Wow, you're stupid. And my problem with the show was I kept calling people stupid. I was like, you know what? I got to stop. It's just, I was just getting too frustrated.
Well, you also have, your style, and having been watching you, is that you're not, your default, or at least I don't think where you want to be, is angry.
Exactly.
And you have a smile, you have a twinkle. Ultimately, you're about constructive and construction in terms of uplifting people, in terms of, we'll talk about what your day job, which thankfully you have one, and night job. That's the beauty of e-commerce. But yeah, it's the anger that brings us down, and it's toxic. And I'll tell you one thing, John, is like there are two words, I've said this a lot on the show, that for me are like nails on a chalkboard, which is when you hear these pundits say the word "I think."
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what you think. I want to know what you know. I want to know what you know. If you're the expert, you should know it. You shouldn't think it. It shouldn't be your opinion. It's exactly what you said.
Yeah.
But we don't see that.
Or I don't know. I don't hear enough experts say I don't know.
I'll get back to you. Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't know. None of us know. None of us know, and they get on these TV shows, and I know that this is blah blah blah, and everybody's wrong. We can't be right on this thing that just got here. Cancer has been around for millennial. I don't know. It's a long time. They found cancer in dinosaurs, probably. I don't know, but cancer's been a thing for so long. Recent research, educated research on cancer, probably the last 100 years. And today, even still, a doctor cannot tell you exactly what's going to go on with you and your cancer. Some people it kills, some people goes away. Not often, but it does happen. So we don't know everything about cancer. And to pretend like we know everything about COVID is ridiculous. There's just every day there's discovering new things, and we need to be in that flux right now.
Yeah, it's a great point. And by the way, thank you, Neil. Neil said he'll never unfriend me, which Neil must mean that I need to work harder at offending you. But so just give me time. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'll never unfriend you either. One of the things I do on the show, John, is I have a little bit of fun because, I've realized in my heart I'm a sadist and like inflicting pain on people. So I always come up with a quote. And this one almost didn't fit. I still have to get my angle slightly right. But I think it speaks to you. It speaks to the person you are. So this quote is, well, you have to try and guess who said it, and generally you have no chance. So that's the same stuff. All human beings are born entrepreneurs. Some get a chance to unleash that capacity. Some never got the chance, never knew that he or she had that capacity. So if you have any idea who said it, you win a book if you get it. In fact,
I'll win the book if I get it.
I'll still send you a book anyway. But if you want,
human beings are entrepreneurs, born that way. Tony Robbins.
Almost. Muhammad Yunus, an economist. Exactly. So close. But
yeah, so close.
And yet so far. In an interview, you said, I was born an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And it opens up the whole dialogue as to whether entrepreneurs can be trained, whether it is something that you can learn, or you either got it or you don't. I would love to hear your story of how, I wouldn't even, it would be inaccurate to say how you became an entrepreneur, because you became an entrepreneur when you were born.
Right. I just recognized something was different, the way that I viewed things. And I don't know if it wasn't that I recognized it was different. I think other people recognized it in me. And I tell the story about, like, when I was a kid, they had this thing called hardship license, right? Where if you could prove that you needed to use a car, you could get a license 1 year earlier. So normally you can get your, permit at 16. I got mine at 15. Once I got my license to drive at 15, I was the only kid with a car, right? Or access to a vehicle. And anybody that rode in my car, I would charge them gas money. And the reason why is because, hey, I don't need to put gas in to drive you around. You put the gas, I bring the car, and that was my, thing. And certain people used to, diss on me and just be like, oh, you so cheap. Why are you charging us to take us to the mall? I'm like, I need gas, dude. Plus, I'm going to buy something at the mall. I need some money. And it was me being entrepreneurial. I really didn't understand, but literally, I created Uber at that time before there was an Uber. People literally would call me up. Billy, we going to the to the mall today? Okay, I got one of the seats. I only got 3 seats. You better call early. You know what I'm saying? That was me. And I just, everything after that was always attached to the entrepreneurial spirit. And it's probably why I didn't do well in school. Because
I was going to say that the classic book smarts versus street smarts debate.
Yeah. I just was not. They never could keep me interested, and I was very self-taught. So I passed all my classes, but I just wasn't engaged, and I got so disengaged that when I turned 18 in the last year of school, you could turn 18, then you're considered an adult, and you can write your own, excuse slips. I stopped going to school most of the time. And, I was excused. I didn't have to get a note from my parents until my principal called me in one day and was like, dude, you're going to stop this. I'm like, well, but I'm passing. What's up? What's up?
So wait, so there's been a revelation on the show, which is actually that you created UberX.
Exactly.
Do you realize how many billions of dollars you just made? Do you want to just text me your bank account? I'll put it on and I'll say.
There you go. You got to get him to send it to me first.
But I think also, the hustle, the ability to recognize time is money, the ability to identify opportunities,
yes,
and do something, right? Because I think entrepreneurship is also about execution. It's not just about sitting. I mean, we saw a quote from Albert Einstein earlier. It's not just about ideas. It's about the ability to execute on those ideas, even instinctively. And I think that's what you did.
Two different things, too. I know a lot of smart people that are not executors.
So now help me bridge the gap between UberX or UberJ, and becoming the CEO of a large e-commerce company. And I mean, it's I don't think people understand what it is to be a power seller and a platinum. I mean, these are, to be at the top of the game on Amazon and eBay, that takes some performance.
I guess, it just was, I think that, like you said, finding opportunity and doing what you love. And that kind of manifested itself in our business. When I started, I was just trying to survive. My initial endeavor into the world of e-commerce was because I was about to go bankrupt. I had a business dealing with a flipping a real estate property, and it didn't work out. And I was about to go bankrupt. And so I started selling my used books around the house on eBay. And after that, it just kind of snowballed into what else can we sell? And then one day I was driving down the street and I happened to see a import store. And I'm like, oh, I want to go in there and see what they got in there. And I went in there and saw these things. And I'm like, wow, I wonder if I can sell that on eBay. And I started selling that on eBay. And it just snowballed. I mean, once we got to, Power Seller Platinum, I believe was like at that time $25,000 a month, and I wanted to be a part of this group called the Professional eBay Sellers, and you had to be a power seller to do that. And so I was determined to become part of that group. After they told me, no, you can't be in this group. Probably I was doing like 10,000 a month, and I thought I was Mr. Big Shot. This is back in like 2004. And so it moved me to go to the next level. And what I've learned over the years is that there's always a next level. Always. There's always somebody doing more. There's always somewhere you could be that you're not there yet. And I just strive to move up in levels. Absolutely.
There were so many things that you said there that I was taking mental and sometimes even physical notes. One is, I think it goes back to the monologue, to the soliloquy, which is scrapping for survival is always going to be preferred to a grisly and painful death. And nothing motivates like the ability to survive and stay in the game and fight another day. The other thing that I really loved what you said is this idea of that's a quote to live your life by, which is, there's always another level, up and down, up and down.
Boom, boom. That's very true. And you might see those people down level again. So get ready.
Yeah, and you know, people have short, especially what do you call them? I don't know if you call them. Did you call them lemmings or people? People that just sheep,
The
etc.
sheeples.
The
That's what I call
sheeples,
them. Sheeple.
sheeple peoples.
Sheeple.
So now, in addition to this company that you've built, and finding success, I mean, obviously there is. I'm going to talk about your book in a second, but you do have a show which I think maybe you stopped it for a while, but came back to it, or maybe I just didn't see it. Called Watching Amazon. Tell us a little bit about the show.
Yeah, me and a friend of mine, Brent Leary, we met probably like 10 years ago or more. And where we met at a Saturday morning breakfast event, right? And every once a month, all of us would get together and have breakfast. And that event kind of teetered out when the leader of that just kind of flew the coop and actually moved away from the city. And once that ended, me and Brent just started getting together over coffee and donuts once a month at, like Panera Bread or something. And so I think and we would just talk about, different things in the speaking business and entrepreneurial stuff and just business in general. And we just really was steel sharpening steel. And it was very valuable for us when we got together for just how we thought and how we would move forward in our teachings, because he's a speaker as well. And so one day we were like, man, we should record one of these and let people sit in on it. And I'm like, yeah, we should, and then I think we kind of like, but it should be around a topic. And we started pitching ideas around topics because he's in the CRM space. I'm in the e-commerce space. And we were trying to figure out what would be the unifying thing. And then we just was like, Amazon. I'm like, yeah, because Amazon is so vast. It's not just an e-commerce thing. It's a technology company, and he was really into how they would deal with the service of their customers from a CRM perspective. And that just worked. And that's where we got Watching Amazon from. But yeah, and then we were traveling so much with our, speaking business that we would do it. We didn't have it in we'd do it whenever we had time or when we were both in the city, and then lockdowns came and we started like, dude, let's just do it weekly. And now that's why you see it kind of went away and come back, because we got intentional about it, making sure we have a slot for it, and I think that works well for the show. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, and also it's a way to sell your book. I mean, so you wrote a book called Kick-Ass Social Commerce for e-preneurs.
Right.
I like that, e-preneurs as opposed to entrepreneurs. And with a little subhead, right? It's not about likes, it's about sales.
Right.
I assume you obviously talk about this book as well as part of your keynotes. What's your favorite thing that you like to talk about when you speak, and what do you get booked for the most? Are they the same or are they different?
No, it's usually in the space of social commerce. I am very, very big on how do you monetize this audience. It's not about how many people like you. Who cares? If they don't buy anything from you, what have you done? And I think we've got into this. I was just thinking about this in the shower today, about how people, this economy almost, not even the economy, but the world we're in, people are so focused in on how many followers you have or how many people liked your post. And then we were like, well, if I get enough people to like my post, then maybe I can sell them something. But you remember the Instagram person that had 2 million followers, right? And she went out and tried to sell a t-shirt and couldn't sell 26 of them.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, that is the problem with this thought of being an influencer. I don't know how you influence if you can't influence people to purchase from you from an entrepreneurial standpoint, I don't get the point of doing the influencing stuff. I just don't get it, you know? And I think a lot of people had these books at the time, because I wasn't the first to write a social book, but I was the first to write one about commerce with social. It wasn't just about, oh yeah, get a bunch of followers and then maybe offer them something. I'm like, no, let's start out from the beginning of, I'm only getting these people because I want to get more customers, clients, and make more sales.
There's a lot of wealth and depth in what you just said, and I think one of I'll kind of unpack it from most recent to early, if I can remember. But you basically said something that I think is a real nugget, which is if you are acquiring your, and let's call them customers, right? Friends, fans, followers. If you're acquiring this audience for the wrong reasons, you know, in order to monetize them, then that relationship is not really a relationship that was ever built on trust and reciprocation. You know, I think it's very different to what you see happening with us streamies today, which is, you know, with using something like Patreon, where you can create levels and where you can create patrons. And It's almost this understanding, and it's an honesty as well, to be able to say, I'm doing this for you, I'm doing this for me. You know, I think it comes back to your Uber J days, which is, I'm not just going to drive you around for my, you know, for your own good. I'm driving you for my own good too.
Exactly.
And so inherent in commerce, I would say, let me ask you this question. I think is you never hear this word mentioned a lot with the word commerce, but it's the word honesty, which is being able to set up the transaction or supply and demand with transparency and honesty in terms of saying, this is what's going on here.
Yeah, I mean, it's about trust. It's about reciprocity, and also just, you know, transparency. You have to have all of those things. If you, or let's put it like this, you don't have to have all things, but if you have those three things there, you're going to do way better than, you know, trying to flip the switch from, hey, I'm just here, you know, telling you this, this, and that, and oh, by the way, go buy this. You know, it's like, dude, you never asked me to buy anything before. Why all of a sudden? You know, so I mean, have some intention in mind when you start your venture. It just helps to have that. It really does.
I think that's a great piece of advice for people, whether it's, quite frankly, whether it's a commerce company or a venture or it's a streaming initiative, which is, there should be a plan. That plan should be communicated clearly. But it's also okay to like make sure that your head is down and you're executing versus, as you say, acquiring those likes and friends and fans and followers.
Right, but even if that's all you want is likes, friends, fans, and followers, that again is the intention. And if you come out with that intention, you're going to get way more fans, followers, and likes than if you just throw stuff out there and hope you get fans, followers, and likes.
But you won't sell any T-shirts. That's what we've learned. Right?
T-shirts.
The lessons to live by, brought to you by Joseph and John. So I decided that I would, you know, just have a little bit of fun as well, and you know, because I've had the opportunity to get to know you without actually getting to know you through, you know, through your Facebook, through your very generous streaming. I pulled a few posts, and we can lightning round them and
Let's go. Oh my God.
Well, first of all, I have to ask you, can you introduce me to Van Jones? Would he ever come on my show? What do I have to do to get him?
I feel you, man. You know, just mention my name. That's all.
Yeah, now I've got to figure out his email address. But that was that's a wonderful photo.
Yeah, you know, that's funny. Was it 2 years ago? I was invited to a small business event at the White House, you know, in 2018. And I'm standing at so I go up to the White House gates and I'm like, I'm not going to be late. You know, I'm going to get there early. So I get there about 15 minutes early, and I'm go up to the guard shack, and I'm John Lawson. I'm supposed to be here, blah, blah, blah. They look my name up. They like, you're not supposed to be here till 1 o'clock, let's say. I don't remember what time it was. So it's 12:45, and they're like, well, you come back at 1 o'clock. You don't get to come in 5 minutes early, 10 minutes. No. You come when you're scheduled to come. So I'm standing out in front of the guard shack, and I look down the street, and I'm like, oh, damn, there goes Van Jones, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm brushing myself off. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get this picture. And he comes up to me, and, I already know about Van is a big Prince fan, and I'm a big Prince fan. And so I strike up a conversation with him about Prince, and that was the icebreaker. And we stood there and we talked about Prince and how much we missed him and the music, and got the picture. And that's my run-in with Van. But there's a lesson in there, folks. If you get your opportunity to meet and greet somebody, take the picture. Ask for the picture. All they're gonna do is say no. Who cares? They can walk away and say no. But if you get that picture, it's another level.
Yeah, I mean, a beautiful way to bring it back to the idea of another level, and that just shows you as well. What do they say? The golfing story is 99% of all short putts never go in the hole. And I try and teach that even to my kids sometimes, which is, even though I embarrass them, I'm the guy who will ask for the picture. I'm the guy who will make the conversation, because what have you got to lose?
Yeah, and it's a great memory. It's a great memory. So.
All right. So David says follow him and he'll follow you back, and we'll respond to direct messages. All right. Well, let's see. And now thank you so much, Richie. I appreciate it. Thank you. Now I have to take the shirt off and burn it. My team just lost. I was having such fun until he spoiled until he rained on my parade. Okay, well, I got two more things for you. One is turns out that both before I do that, Steve just said, great story also shows that you should treat the famous person as a regular person.
Yes.
And then ask for the photo.
And you know what? I do want to mention that now that he brings that up. My father worked for the airlines. He retired from the airlines. When I was a kid, we would be in first class flying everywhere because we could do that for free, right? And I met so many stars that way, but my father always talked to them as, hey, brother, what's up? Very much regular conversation, regular people, never this starstruck thing. And I took that from him. And that's very good point. Very good point.
Well, that's Steve Garfield. You might meet him in the after show as well. He's big on that. And Richie just said there was a VAR, which is the video assisted referee, and the goal was disallowed. So it's back to nil. It's back to 0-0, and I can focus on being happy again.
Because you have a possibility.
Yeah, it's still a tie. So we'll continue and we'll see what happens. Mm-hmm. So the thing that I wanted to show was I just found it to be really interesting. Both of us actually had MacBook Pros from 2014, 2015. And, it's not that I necessarily needed a new one, but as I was doing more and more streaming and more editing, I realized I had limited memory and my hard drive was filling up. I guess I did need one. But this MacBook was going strong, 5-6 years old. But I need a new one, and I got one. And then I just saw that you just got pretty much the same one as well. Yes. How's it working out for you?
Oh man, it's changing my life. And then you're talking about, doing video edits. Literally, I did my first video edit on that video that you're showing, which was the unboxing. It was a 13-minute video. I go out to, export it from the editor, and it's like 4 minutes. I'm like, oh my God. Normally that would take me like 20 to 25 minutes to do a 13-minute export. So it's like, oh man, this machine is so fast. So it's going to save me time.
And what do you think about that? I don't know what they call it. The smart bar. What do they call it? The
Touch bar.
The touch bar.
Yeah, I like it. It's pretty tight.
I'm still learning, but I found one thing that is and only one thing that I just think is phenomenal, which is if you're giving a presentation, you can see your next slide in that bar. Of course, not many of us are giving presentations at the moment.
Wow.
But if you were actually giving a webinar or something, you can now for the first time see the next slide in the sequence, and that can help your transitions beautifully.
That's cool. I'm going to definitely test that out.
Yeah. So finally, I could share something. I could help you after you help me.
Yeah.
And then finally, it's a yellow background, but you posted this, so I'm going to ask you: are we going to be looking at President Kanye anytime soon?
No, not going to happen. But I think this will usher in a Trump second term. If this,
you think?
Yeah.
Oh, if he ends up actually running.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You think maybe it was just a marketing tactic to because his new album is dropping, or?
Meh. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know. You can't. No, absolutely not. Kanye is not that crafty to hide his intentions, right? So what I mean by the interview, everything he was saying in his interview with, I don't know, he just did one, it's not like he's crafty enough to make up answers to hide his real intention. He's pretty transparent.
So we'll see what happens. I mean, nothing surprises us anymore.
Nothing. This is 2020.
It's 2020.
Actually, you know what? I have to change my answer. He could be the president. It's 2020.
There you go. There you go. Perfect way to end the show. And we're going to head next door to the Zoom after show, bit.ly/CoronaTV after show, where we're going to discuss some of the policy priorities for President. I don't know what we're going to call him, President Kanye. But you're right, nothing surprises us anymore. As long as we keep smiling, we keep hopeful, we keep being optimistic, we keep learning from wonderful people like my guest today, John Lawson, who's gone out and built a phenomenal business and inspires entrepreneurs to realize their goals and dreams, to ascend from level to level up as opposed to level down. You can find out more about John at johnlawson.com. John, thank you for changing my life and for coming into the show.
Thank you, man. I really had fun.
Yeah, it was fun, and we'll continue it next door.
All right, here we go.